I'm here with Gordon Crawford, who is Director of Patients Direct. Thanks so much for joining me, Gordon.
It's a pleasure.
Now, I understand that you have an interesting perspective on how patients should engage with the industry or vice versa. What is the industry currently missing out on when it comes to patient insight?
Well, we believe that patients and their carers and their families have a huge amount of information that is useful and valuable to the pharmaceutical industry, but they are missing out on taking it because they've not yet found a suitable way to acquire that information.
So the best way to acquire it, presumably, is a mixture of observational and direct, or would you advocate one way over the other?
I would advocate a direct approach. The patients, as I say, know all about the disease, they know how they feel, and with modern technology, simply by having a questionnaire on a website, patients can interact if they wish to and answer the questions that the pharma industry want to hear the answers to. And by simply recruiting the patients to answer these questions, the pharma can get the information that will perhaps allow them market access for their drugs or different ways of treatment pathways.
So tell me about some of the more interesting insights that companies have actually obtained as a result of simply doing this.
Well, last year we did a flu survey. The company wanted to know what the kind of impact might be if children were immunised against flu. So they wanted to find out what happened if a child got flu. Did the parents have to take time off work? Did the child infect the parents? Was that more time off work? Did they affect their siblings? Was that more time off work? And what was the impact in the health service? So we recruited about 1,000 families and followed them up every 2 weeks over the winter, and were able to give quite a lot of information which would suggest that truly immunisation of children against flu would be worthwhile.
And did that actually go anywhere? Did it achieve the desired effect when those results were fed back?
Well, the results are with the company just now. They're preparing a poster to go to ISPOR, and they're also preparing a paper. So what they actually do ultimately with the results is yet to be determined, but they're certainly going to publish it.
So over the last few years, we've obviously seen the information held and the sense of empowerment by the patient increase massively, largely due to the information they can obtain from places online, etc. Do you have any idea where this trend is going? What's it actually going to mean in the future? And have you seen any trends emerge from the sort of surveys you've been doing?
I think the big trend is from very much a paternalistic medicine or didactic medicine, where the doctor says to the patient, you do as I say, to very much more informed patient and an informed patient demanding a partnership approach. And we did a survey with psoriasis where we asked the GPs to give information as well as the patients. And it was quite interesting that the GPs were actually less informed about the patient's disease than the patients.
Interesting. And so where do you see this going in the future if this continues in this way?
I'm not sure it can go terribly much further, because at the end of the day, the patients might become very, very knowledgeable in a small area, but there will always be a need for the physician to have a wider outlook. And even in a particularly specialist area, the physicians will still have a wider view of the disease than the patient, because the patient will quite naturally pick and choose the information he wants to have.
Okay. So as a pharmaceutical executive, trying to obviously launch a product, market a product, gain the commercial success that they need, what sort of changes in their approach would you most advocate from the average? What sort of lessons do the managers really need to take on board?
I think the managers need to know much more clearly exactly how it feels to have that disease, what the impact of that disease is on the patient's life. Can they go to work? Can they go to dancing? Can they walk to the end of the garden? All these kind of things. And then if they know that, then they can target their medicine much better, and they can then move into some kind of outcomes-based partnership with the payer.
It's interesting you mentioned the payer just at the end there. Do you find that it's people from the market access sort of persuasion that are most keen to engage with you in these kind of surveys, or do you find that it's actually the commercial colleagues that are?
In some companies, it's one and the same. but it's mostly market access people who want to be involved. We are currently doing one with Alzheimer's Scotland as well, looking at different services they are commissioning. So patient groups probably have an interest in this kind of information as well.
Now, your company has a background in clinical area, which might surprise some people, particularly as you often use real-world data as you align to the people who are interested in that. How do those two things really sort of juxtapose, and do you see the future of that emerging somehow?
I think that there's going to be more patient-orientated data in clinical trials in the future. There's already a bit of a trend to PROMs being used in more and more clinical trials, but I think that's going to be an increasing trend because that type of data is probably the important thing to the patient. Does it matter to the patient if their blood pressure has gone down 4 points? No. Does it matter to the patient if their FEVs improve by 10%? Well, the figure doesn't, but if it means they can mow the grass, then that's a big change.
And do you see that the patient actually is having more of a say in the original design of clinical trials these days, not just the impact of the trial itself?
Not yet, not yet. But I think that's probably the next stage. We've seen some presentations today about very empowered patients, and I'm sure they are going to start feeling that some impact in the design of trials is important.
Gordon, thanks so very much for talking to me today.
Pleasure. Thank you.